Okay, we're live on YouTube now. Ready when you are, Mayor.
Okay. All right, since we do have a quorum, I guess we could start the meeting. So welcome everyone to the regular Board of Trustees meeting for Tuesday, April 13th, 2021. Is there a motion to open the meeting? Trustee Patino, second Trustee Taylor, all in favor? And that passes 4-0. Could we rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. As I do every meeting, I do want everyone to be aware that we are meeting remotely. And since we do have a public meeting tonight, I will also read the instructions for the public meeting. You will be able to participate via Zoom, by internet, or by telephone. The videos can also be viewed after each meeting on YouTube and will be posted on the village website. If you have a comment, question, or concern which you would like to make, please email the village clerk by 3 o'clock on the Monday before the meeting. Be sure to include the meeting date, the agenda item you'd like to address. Send comments to the village clerk at ldraper@dobbsferry.com. For public hearings, we will accept email comments in advance of the hearings. Please email to the village clerk at ldraper@dobbsferry.com by 3 o'clock on the Monday before the meeting. For Zoom participants, we will also enable the option for participation to raise their hands and voice their concern or question. To log on to Zoom, visit the link provided in the agenda. Once connected to the meeting, you will be auto muted to prevent audio interference with the meeting. When the meeting is about to start, click on that link and join the meeting. To join by phone, simply call the number indicated in the Zoom invitation for that particular meeting. You'll be automatically muted when you are on the call. If you wish to make a statement or comment, please email as outlined above. If dialing in by phone, you may raise your hand by dialing 9. You may also unmute yourself by dialing *6. At the outset, I have to add 3 items to the agenda. Action item number 16 will be a motion to permit pollinator pathway medallions. Action item number 17 is a discussion of an addition of land to Chauncey Park. And action item number 18 is to approve a cleanup at the Somo River by Groundworks. Okay. Like I said, welcome everybody to our meeting. Our first action item will be a public hearing on the tentative 2021-2022 village budget. Jeff, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Okay, 1 second. Okay, so we're going to take a look at the 2021-2022 excuse me, tentative budget this evening. And then at the next meeting, the board and mayor will review and approve the budget. So even though there are several vaccines available and we're starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel with COVID-19, this budget stays very conservative. We are projecting that several revenue sources will not fully recover this coming budget year. The result is a budget that proposes the first tax rate increase in several years. Again, this year we created additional contingencies in case this pandemic lasts for an extended period. And the mayor and board of trustees want taxpayers to be confident that every penny village staff spends will continue to be scrutinized by the budget director, treasurer, and ultimately approved by the mayor and the board. When you look at this slide, we're looking at the levy change for the past 15 years. Since its implementation, the village has complied with New York State's tax cap legislation. And once again, this year we comply. We try very hard to balance taxes with the many costly but important services that the village provides, such as police, fire, road maintenance, and garbage pickup that our residents have come to expect. For 2021-22, the village has proposed to increase the tax levy by 3.63%. Again, this is within the tax cap and tentatively sets the tax levy at $14,934,862. To the benefit of the taxpayers, the tax rate has remained flat for the past several years. However, due to the anticipated continued effects of COVID-19 that COVID-19 has had on some of the village revenue sources, we are proposing a tentative tax rate of $7.09 per $1,000 of assessed value, and that is a 2.5% increase in the rate over the prior year's budget. Unfortunately, tax increases are predominant this year. I've discussed the budgeting process with several of the surrounding villages, and every one of them, unfortunately, has had to adjust for the effects of COVID on the revenue budget. This slide shows the taxable value over the past 14 years. Some good news is that once again, this year, the assessed value of taxable real property in the village increased to just over $2,107,000,000, or an increase of about $23 million. Taxpayers have benefited from the valuation trending up for the past seven years. The uptick in property valuation has helped maintain a very stable tax rate for the past several years. The village continues to provide all the expected village services within the restraints of a conservative budget. And as you'll see on the next slide, the Dobbs Ferry village tax rate continues to be one of the lowest in the river towns villages. Village administration has worked together for many years to bring the residents a high level of services at one of the lowest tax rates in the river towns. And with this budget, we will continue to do so. This year, we anticipate employee retirement system rates will slightly increase. The rates for the retirement system can be affected by several items such as the economy, stock market, and state mandates or requirements. The rates could continue to trend upward in the future. However, we continue to see the retirement of some longtime village employees who are replaced with personnel in one of the retirement tiers that requires larger contributions from employees and a much lower village contribution to the retirement system for those employees. For the upcoming year, we do anticipate a continuation of the trend of healthcare costs upward. However, we have continued to try to contain these costs to the village going forward. And the village needs to continue to monitor healthcare costs and have suggested in the past that the Citizens Budget Committee review this cost to contain the costs to the village taxpayers. So we have proposed an operating budget of approximately $20,130,000 and total expenditures of approximately $21,602,000, including the library and the sewer funds. Personnel and benefits, as you can see, represent 64% of budgeted expenditures. This slide shows the allocation of costs basically by department, along with debt and benefits. Public safety is one of the largest components of the village budget. And again, the expense is mostly people in the form of personnel and benefits. Non-property taxes such as sales tax collections continue to be the village's major revenue source other than the tax levy. Last year, the budget saw a benefit from the increased sales tax rate collected in Westchester County. And again, this year we anticipate approximately $25 million in non-property tax collections. We have, however, had to adjust some revenue estimates down for 2021-22, resulting from the effects of the COVID pandemic, including parking, permit sales, and fines and forfeitures. The trend of revenues expenditures continues upward. Personnel costs, once again, are a large portion of the increase because of projected cost of living adjustments and the ever increasing cost of benefits such as health insurance. So this slide illustrates the distribution of property taxes within the village. The largest portion of your tax bill continues to be the school district at close to 67% of your property taxes. Village provided services such as the police department, snow removal, and garbage removal remain at approximately 20% of your tax bill. And the next two slides show how the general fund's unreserved fund balance has been trending for the past 15 years. And unreserved fund balance is, in essence, the village's savings account for unforeseen circumstances that can occur. The village will continue to work hard to keep the unreserved fund balance at a reasonable level in an effort to ensure that we provide the highest level of service to the residents of Dobbs Ferry at the best possible cost. So in summary, we have proposed a budget that is once again in compliance with New York State's tax cap levy. The tax rate increases 2.5% over last year, with another increase in taxable assessed value and an increase in expenditures of 2.2%. And we have been able to continue to maintain a strong fund balance. However, there are future concerns that we must continue to keep an eye on, noted on this slide. And our goal is to provide the highest level of service to the residents of Dobbs Ferry at the best possible costs, and we feel that this budget does that. Are there any questions?
Well, you did a great job. You and the village administrator have done a great job on this. I just want, if you can just clarify, because we hear about tax cap and tax levy, and you say the tax rate is increased. Can you just, for the average homeowner, can you just explain like what the tax levy means?
Okay, so the tax levy is the largest portion of the revenue side of our budget. It's what the taxpayers pay. The tax rate is based off the total budget and the tax levy and the assessed value. So with this budget, the tax rate is going to increase from roughly $6.92 per $1,000 of assessed value to $7.09 per $1,000 of assessed value. That should should potentially, for the average homeowner, potentially see an increase of about $100 or less.
Okay.
Jeff, is it fair to say that if there is not a change in the underlying assessment of the value of a homeowner's home, that their taxes would be expected to increase 2.5%?
That's correct.
And that's the village portion of the taxes. which is
Yeah, just the village portion.
Is 20%. So I'm not familiar with where the other taxing entities are coming in.
School, town, and county. would be
Right.
The other, and I'm not sure where they're at this point. I have the schools, but the town and county is, we're still early.
I don't have any other questions, but I'd like to thank you and Richard and the village staff for putting together what I think is a very responsible and responsive to the times budget, which is going to keep us in good footing and minimize the impact on taxpayers. So thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody have any questions or comments? Okay, I think you did a great job laying it out. I know we did lose some revenue, but we hope that next year we will be able to make up for some of it. And so in light of that, though, we do have a very tight and good budget. So thank you, everyone, for that.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to adjourn this public hearing to our next Board of Trustee meeting, which would be April 27th. So is there a motion to adjourn this public hearing till April 27th? Trustee Sullivan, second. Trustee DeRozzi, all in favor? Okay, so that public hearing is adjourned to April 27th, where we will then vote on the budget as required by law. Okay, thank you. Let's move along to courtesy of the floor. Is there anybody who has is there anybody who'd like to say anything? Alyssa?
Yes, I'm going to promote Robert Barron. Rob, can you hear us?
Hi, sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm here as my sort of small role as the Affordable Housing Task Force member / guest. My wife Tracy, who's the chair, was unable to be here, and so I just want to say to speak in support of items 6 and 7 of the Affordable Housing Action Plan and the resolution to retain the services of PACE Land Use Law Center. We've spending a lot of time over the last 2 years working as a task force on getting as much research we can get from the rest of Westchester and actually the whole country. We had a wonderful initial meeting, a stakeholder meeting, where we gained a lot of insight into some of the main concerns. And thank you, Mr. Mayor, and the board members who were there, and Deputy Mayor Cassell, who's shown a lot of leadership here, and Trustee DeRossi as well for your strong support. The next step in the Affordable Housing Action Plan is to have a larger community forum where we can really get, take the pulse of the community, get people's comments and concerns and what they want to see in the development of this Affordable Housing Action Plan. So I urge you, especially since we have some matching funds for the PACE Land Use Center, to facilitate this process. They're really good at this. They do this all the time. If you would support that. I'd like to just now put on a different hat, my co-chair of Sustainability Task Force hat. On items 16 and 18, I urge you to support the pollinator badges. This is an effort that the Sustainability Task Force, along with the CAB, has been pushing, supporting residents to put pollinator gardens throughout the village. It's really important for a variety of reasons. And then number 18, putting on my Groundwork Hudson Valley board member hat. I thank you guys. I know all of you have been out to the Groundwork Hudson Valley Great Sawmill River cleanup over the last 11 years. I believe this is the 12th year that we're doing this. It's exciting that this is the second year now that Dobbs Ferry is going to have 2 sites on it, both the Chauncey Park site, which is along the Sawmill River, and also at Lawrence Street. So I look forward to everybody coming out on April 24th from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. And then the last thing is my traffic committee hat. I'm looking forward to hearing more about the Masters Campus building. Previous iterations of Masters construction has made an impact on accessibility and mobility, especially for pedestrians in the village. And I urge you guys to take a look at this I look forward to looking at it myself as well. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Rob. We appreciate all the work that you do for the village. Clearly, you are a very involved person. I don't know what we would do without you, so thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Anybody else?
I'm gonna promote Patty Steinschneider.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Cool. Kind of following from Rob's list of things that are oriented towards making our village better in the future. I just want to remind everyone that we've got 2 programs that we're working on right now. We've got to support Mayor Rasulo's efforts to beat Hastings, and we're doing community solar and grid rewards, 2 programs that are beneficial for everybody who has a Con Ed account. And we hope that everybody's starting to pay attention to it. You want to sign up with grid rewards as soon as you can, because it changes once the end of the month comes. So it's easy to do. We've got all the information in a number of different places. And I think we're going to be having an event coming up soon that's going to help people learn more about how to sign up, but it's actually quite easy. So please, everybody, sign up for both community solar and for grid rewards.
Actually, that event is Sunday, the 18th at 5 p.m.
Right.
And we have another event actually on Saturday, the 17th at Holly Malakian's house, where up on Judson, where we can get a demonstration from Planet Wild about how effective other means of controlling cleaning up your yard is than using gas-powered blowers. So we seem to have a lot of good things happening in terms of the environment, which is excellent. Thanks, everybody.
Great. So Alyssa, maybe at the announcements, you could remind me to talk about the event that you were alluding to, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. Anybody else?
Yes, I'm going to promote Mr. Kerr.
Now, Mr. Kerr, you're on the agenda to speak later about the Chauncey Park. So
If you would prefer for me to wait till then, that's fine.
yeah, if that's what you intend to talk about.
That's what I'm going to talk about, but I'll be more than pleased to wait till it gets to the point in the
I'm
agenda.
sorry about putting you so far
No,
down.
that's perfectly fine.
You
Not
want
a
to come
problem
back
at
in
all.
about half an hour, that'll be probably better for you, but that's up to
No,
you.
that's okay. More than pleased to be here.
Thank you. Anybody else? You're on mute, Alyssa.
Nobody else has their hand raised at this time.
Okay, great. So let's move to matters requiring action. We have before us for site plan review, an application to construct a new classroom building on Masters campus at 49 Clinton Avenue. We're not going to make any decisions today on this matter. It's simply to see a brief presentation and then, if appropriate, refer it to the planning board. It'll come back to us to vote on, but right now we're simply taking a look at the presentation. And who's here to speak for the masters?
I know there are a number of people, so I'm just in the process of promoting.
Actually, the attorney sent us a list. I guess the most important is that the architect should be promoted because that's the source of the presentation slides.
So, Jennifer Olson.
Brad, do we have the correct people?
So far, so good.
Okay, good.
Jennifer
see.
Olson is coming on next, so perfect. She's the most important one,
Okay, other than you, right, Brad?
other than the clients, right?
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry, Mr. Biddle. Of course, Mr. Biddle.
So good evening, Mayor, and actually Stephen Bevan, the project engineer.
Yeah.
Jasmine may be out there.
Oh, yes, I see. Okay, just a second.
So good evening, Mayor and members of the board. Just for the record, Brad Schwartz from Zarin and Steinmetz, representing the Masters School. We're here tonight for the school's proposed Innovation and Entrepreneurship Center, or as we call it, IEC for short. It is a new proposed educational building that will be the new home for the school's computer science and engineering classes. I'm joined by, as you see, Seth and Ed from the Masters School, the project architects from Marvell, Jennifer Olson and Lisa So, and Stephen Bevan from MFS Engineer. So we're all here. We're excited to make this kickoff presentation tonight. As you mentioned in your opening, we're simply here for an initial presentation and to ask your board to make the necessary referrals. The one important point that I want to mention right up front is because these classes are already offered at the school, this is simply a new home for these classes in a new centralized location. There will be no new students, no new faculty, and therefore no new traffic. And even as we just heard from Mr. Barron a couple of minutes ago, we all know and appreciate how important traffic is to the village. So we're pleased to be here, and we can safely announce that this is one of those development projects that will not generate any new traffic. So I wanted to emphasize that point right up front. I know Seth and Ed want to make some opening remarks, and then Jennifer will walk the board through what I promise will be a short slide deck that will show the site plan and some of the images of the proposed building.
So Brad, this is being recorded, Brad. So we have you on recording saying no increase in traffic, right?
Perfect.
That's fine. So the origins for the Master School in Dobbs Ferry go back to the 19th century. And we started in buildings that the Presbyterian Church occupied today on the other side of Broadway, and then over time moved up the hill. In the 1930s, Fortune magazine said we were one of the top 5 women boarding schools in America. But then things sort of started to go quiet. From about 1970 to 2000, no major new construction was undertaken as the school was struggling. The school went co-ed in 1996, and that started a reinvigoration that is continuing today. We really try and use and reuse existing structures to the maximum extent we can. And a good example of that is our middle school that started as a math and science building and an infirmary, and now houses our entire middle school. We only add buildings when we have a need or use that is not and cannot be met with existing structures. When we do build, we do so carefully and with a commitment to sustainability and green planning principles. I'm going to ask Seth to talk about some of the details of the IEC.
Thanks, Ed. As you heard my colleague Ed, our CFO, and as Brad pointed out, this is a program that has outgrown its current facilities. Innovation, entrepreneurship, and the computer sciences and STEAM and STEM, as many folks in this meeting are aware, these are programs that didn't even exist 30 years ago. So schools like ours have done their best, as Ed said, to meet the need in existing spaces. Our program, our IEC program, began in 2016 with 16 of our students enrolled in those courses. This year, 250 of our students have been enrolled in those IEC courses. We have juggled classroom space and moved around to try to find appropriate room for our existing students to take these courses. It's the most exciting and interesting program from an enrollment perspective. It's the #1 program that colleges and employers are telling us the competencies that are needed in the modern workplace for the future engineers, scientists, doctors, mathematicians. All of those are the courses that appeal in this demographic. And so, as Brad said, Masters is not seeking to expand enrollment. We're just looking to meet the needs of our students in a facility that's modern and that is paired up nicely to what they need for the foundation for college and for careers. And we're also excited about the opportunity to work with the community and think about how the facility is an enhancement to the village of Dobbs Ferry, like our track and our other campus facilities. Our paradigm and model here is that access is important, and we're committed to that as well.
Great. Thank you, Ed and Seth. Jennifer, turn it over to you to walk the board through some of the slides, please.
Yes. Are you able to see my screen now?
Yep.
Okay, excellent. So this is an aerial photograph, as you probably are aware, of Dobbs Ferry, and the orange outline is the campus of the Master's School, and the orange mass that you see here in the northern portion of their campus is where we're proposing that the building be located. Zooming into the location on the campus, you can see that it's positioned nicely in the center of the campus, well between Clinton Avenue and Esterwood Avenue. Clinton Avenue and Esterwood Ave. The building will also be located just north of the private Cochran Avenue that runs through the campus here, in direct proximity to both the middle school building here as well as Esterwood Avenue. It'll be positioned close to the existing softball field. Looking at that in sort of a sectional view, you can see the IEC building is here, and you can see that there is a large slope that that sort of separates the building from Esterwood Avenue that is also kind of concealed with this large grove of trees, which will really block a lot of the views from some of the residential neighbors here off of Esterwood Avenue. It's about 500 feet from the new building to Clinton Avenue, and it's positioned kind of right on the edge of an existing portion of the nice grassy lawn that you see here that begins to slope off pretty dramatically down to this driveway here that is lined with parking. So looking at that in the kind of zoomed in site plan view, you can see this gray is the outline of our building with two sort of work patios. We're calling entry and work patios surrounding them. A variety of scales and sizes of plantings will be both trying to protect the existing plantings that are there, as well as some providing a complete surround on sort of the new sides where there's not as much existing planting. This area that you see here is a rainwater collection feature that we're going to utilize to help to collect our storm water, which is a bioretention garden that will be here. And although I'm doing the speaking, if there's any questions about that, we do have our civil engineer on the call as well. You can also see that there will be some walking paths that will go around the building. We were not impacting as it was mentioned, the building is not providing new students or additional traffic to the site. We will be however, though, providing two new accessible spaces to serve our building. Otherwise, the parking will be left untouched following the construction. Looking at the building in elevational view, you can see again kind of the intent of the lush landscaping, a lot of native plantings that will be going around the building's perimeter. Also, you can see sort of how the building is set into the steep slope here. So we really have almost a full floor of difference between the grade on the north-south from the south north side from the south side. So it's a 3-story height exposure on one side and a 2-story height exposure on the other side. The building is intended to be clad with a natural zinc panel material, and as well as then that will sit over top of a cast in place concrete board form finish. These materials, we're sort of presenting these materials as modern interpretations of many of the existing materials that exist on campus. So there's a lot of this kind of metal materials, copper and zinc, that already exist on the campus. So we're picking up on the cues from that, as well as many of the buildings on campus have the kind of established stone base. And so our use of the board form concrete will be sort of a modern and innovative interpretation of that otherwise stone base that's present throughout the campus. Here's just the 2 other sides of this. The south elevation, this is the side that you will see when you approach from the quad on the campus side. And then this is on the north elevation that you would see if you're in the sort of driveway. Looking at that in kind of a rendered view, this is from that northern driveway, sort of looking sort of between Esterwood Avenue and the building, looking at the northeast facade. And this is as if you were on the master's quad looking towards the southwest side of the building. And I kept it short.
We promised.
I promised.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Sure.
Any questions from the Board of Trustees on this?
Is there parking related to it or no?
There is no new parking related to it. As we pointed out here, these are all existing parking spaces that we intend to maintain. As there's no new students or faculty that will be added to the student population or faculty population, any parking that is currently available will be maintained. The only thing that we will be doing is designating a few handicap accessible spaces that will be provided to the building specifically.
How far is the building from Esterwood Mansion?
From Esterwood Mansion, we're about 80 feet, kind of like tip to tip here.
What kind of timeline are you hoping to achieve with the whole project?
Well, we've just started the permitting, site plan and site planning process right now. So we're hopeful that we'll be able to get through this process as well as to get the contractors bids and awarded, so that possibly we could get started by the fall of 2021.
Trustee Nell, while this is our first meeting tonight, the architects, the engineers have spent quite a bit of time already designing the project, both architecturally and from an engineering standpoint. So we are hopeful that as we dive into this process, the village and the village's consultants would see that. And we're hoping to get through this as expeditiously as possible. But as Jennifer said, we could hopefully start construction sometime later this fall.
But when are you hoping to open and have students in it?
We anticipate it'll be somewhere around a 15 or 18 month construction process. So probably we hope by early 2023.
Do you have a note, bioretention garden? And I heard you mention zinc paneling. So I'm assuming you're looking at this building from a ecological footprint perspective. Could you talk a little bit about what strategies you're planning to use for energy conservation?
Sure.
Whether that's in the building itself, in how you're treating the landscape, those sorts of things.
Sure. Stephen, is your mic working?
Should be.
Yes, there you are. Would you like to talk a little bit about the site features?
Sure.
Okay.
So in terms of the site and the way that we're dealing with the drainage, the purpose of the bioretention is for a water quality feature. And so while it is going to be something that is meant to be visible and perhaps an educational opportunity on the campus, it's also going towards our water quality criteria for the stormwater that's leaving the site. And so in our stormwater design, our preliminary design is that the site drains towards that bioretention while the roof goes directly into underground detention chambers that will slow down its release so that we do not have an increase in our stormwater discharge post-construction here. And because the site features are where people walk, things fall on the ground, that's what's being filtered through the bioretention for the water quality features on the site.
And we should say that that will be complemented with as native. We will try to specify as many native plantings as possible. That will help to kind of minimize the amount of water that is needed for maintaining those plants and irrigating them if at all possible. We would try to minimize that. Another option that we're working through right now with our full team is potentially using a geothermal system. We're in the process of evaluating the feasibility of that by doing some hydrology tests, testing the conductivity of the site for that. But that is something that's on the table right now that we're considering as a very efficient way that we would be able to mechanically serve our building.
How much greenery are we losing by putting the building there?
I think all these large trees that you see are existing trees, and we will have a large tree protection plan that will save as many of those. I think there's one tree that we're for sure going to have to take down, but otherwise I think it's a pretty open site right now, pretty tree free. Let me see if you can see right there. I think there's one tree that's right. I can even zoom in a little bit so you can see, but most of the greenery is right around the edge. We're lucky, so we're not going to be losing much existing greenery at all. And the site is as I mentioned, it's a pretty steep slope right under our building. So that works quite nicely for us to tuck our building into it. But it's not a site that's very welcoming to some of the recreational activities that go on here on this nice flat area of that. So it's kind of an ideal location to place the building in a location that's not really that great for the sports that are played here, as well as with the idea to kind of expand the quad out in this direction to connect the dining hall to Esterwood Mansion.
Jennifer, what's the approximate footprint? It's about 7,000 square feet, if I recall.
That's right. It's a 3-story building. Each one is just under 7,000 square feet.
Are you going to have to move the softball field to a different location to accommodate that building?
For sure, we're going to have to rotate the softball field, and the school is considering if there might be an alternative location. Just because, as you can see here, the fence line would come and literally hit into the corner of our building here. So what we know for sure we would have to do is to take this and rotate it a series of degrees just to move that fence line this way and have the field go more like that. But the school is considering if there might be alternative locations that would just remove the field from this location altogether.
As I've mentioned to you in the past, if you are moving that field, be careful that it doesn't infringe upon the neighbors in any way with noise or lights, or, if it's going to be moved, we don't want, we don't want it to be annoying your neighbors.
Yeah.
Yep. Thank you, Donna, for that comment. We'll certainly be mindful of that.
Any other comments or questions by the board?
I'm going to throw this out there. I know I shouldn't, but I'm going to anyway. I know this isn't any additional traffic. I know you don't have any additional students, but you're going to have all that wonderful building equipment there and all that poured concrete. Any way you could give us a sidewalk in Esterwood would be great. Just throwing that out there.
You don't have to comment right now, Brad, but think about that.
Duly noted. And in all fairness to the Deputy Mayor, we have heard that at our pre-application meeting, so we know that that's a comment that's been made in the past, so.
Okay, I want to thank you for the presentation, and we're ready to move forward on this, I think. So I'd like to consider a resolution to make certain declarations under secret and authorize referral of the application of 49 Clinton Avenue to the planning board. I have a draft resolution before me, which I will read part of. Whereas following presentation of an overview of the project on April 13th, 2021 by the applicant's representatives, the board must now take certain actions prior to conducting further review of the application in compliance with the New York State Environmental Equality Review Act and corresponding regulations thereto, known as SECRA, the Dobbs-Ferry Zoning Board and New York State General Municipal Law. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Dobbs-Ferry, as sole approval authority for the site plan, hereby declares that it will serve as lead agency for the SECRA review of the project, an unlisted action, and be it further resolved that as an essential precondition to further review of the proposed project, the Board of Trustees of the Village of Dobbs-Ferry hereby directs that the project be referred for comment and recommendation to the Dobbs-Ferry Planning Board as required by Zoning Code 300-52BC2, Architectural and Historic Review. No, I'm sorry. In addition to the Planning Board, we're also referring it to the Architectural and Historic Review Board as required by the Zoning Code, and we're referring it to the Westchester County Planning Board in accordance with General Municipal Law, based on the proximity of the subject property to Route 9, which is a state highway. Is there a motion? Deputy Mayor Cassell, second Trustee Patino, all in favor? And that passes unanimously. So good luck on that next step.
Perfect. Thank you and good night all.
Thank you. Thank you.
Action item number 3 is a discussion of the Parklet program rules and procedures. Richard, maybe you want to shed some light on this, or Laura Lee? Or somebody.
There you go. I'm back. So if I can start, and then I'll refer to Lori Lee for some language that she suggested. Basically, you had your Parklet program that was in place for last year. Came the end of the year, there were a couple of entities that were indicated that they would like to keep it over the winter. The prior administrator had given them permission to do so. And so you saw 2 restaurants with parklets or potential parklets over the winter, and construction started on one of them just about 2 or 3 weeks ago. Under your current rules, it was not totally deemed appropriate for additional work to be done on those parklets. So if it's your desire to be able to enable these restaurants and or retail premises to be able to use these parklets in a bigger way than what was originally intended, Lori Lee prepared some language to permit that, so that other restaurants and businesses would be able to have similar type of construction to what you saw at the 2 restaurants that are currently having that. So Lori, defer to you then.
Sure. I had added language in the winter because people were using tents and canopies. Now, apparently, that they'd like to broaden the ability to enhance the parklet with preparing shelters of a more solid nature. So we looked at the language, and because awnings, canopies, and tents were specifically prohibited by your rules and procedures the last time, we thought we could add a caveat that any structures of that nature would need to be reviewed and approved by your building department. Only your building department can actually inspect the plans for those structures and deem them safe and in accordance with all applicable uniform codes. New York State uniform codes are enforced here in the village. So you would be able to permit structures with the examples of awnings, tents, and pergolas, and those kinds of structures of that nature by a pre-approval review and approval by the building department, because it must be constructed safely and it must be constructed in accordance with the uniform codes enforcement.
Laura Lee, would they need any additional insurance to indemnify the village for those structures, or what they have be appropriate and enough?
Yes, what you currently have is a license agreement that is entered into between the village and any entity who wishes to establish a parklet. And the language would be just as strong whether you're allowing this secondary approval process or not. So you're covered.
Okay, so I'm fine with that change. So I think we can have a discussion before we actually vote on it, just to see how everybody else feels about it.
I'm also in favor of allowing some, I guess we can call them temporary structures, because it's sort of, there's a place in the code for those, for things like that. I also think we should, as you suggested, have a time constraint that follows the end of the parklet program. I think it was somewhere at the end of November. But as long as the building department conducts a regular inspection of the structures and approves them at the outset, I think it's a good strategy for the restaurants to have the additional seating and be able to put people outside.
Since we've already allowed two restaurants to do it, I think we have to open it up to everybody else. It's only fair.
I agree, it's a good idea, and it lets them make those spaces as attractive as possible, which hopefully will help them with the business.
It assists with the functionality for inclement weather, et cetera. So I think your building inspector interpreted elsewhere in the code, it says that the license holder has to comply with all applicable laws, rules, regulations, and codes. So I think he interpreted that to mean at that time that he had the authority and jurisdiction to do this. And it's just the competing language in the prohibitions that we'd like to add a caveat there that any temporary structures such as pergolas or awnings or would have to be subject to code enforcement and pre-approval by the building.
I think maybe that item number 3D, which is prohibited in parklets, tents, canopies, or awnings. I think that there are also pre-engineered tent structures, for example, that you can just purchase and erect without having to have carpenters come and build a structure similar to what the cookery has. So I think that kind of thing should be allowed also. I don't know that, I don't know if perhaps we just make an adjustment to this, because I think a tent structure is a perfectly viable and
yes,
acceptable option, as opposed to, a temporary structure that's hand built. So.
Well, there are uniform code provisions that apply to the erection of tents as well. So we would broaden the language of that prohibition section to include that whatever structure of any temporary structure of any nature would need to meet code requirements. So it would necessitate an inquiry to the building department, and your building inspector would be able to provide guidance in terms of compliance.
I agree with Michael in terms of allowing those type of tents, because they do come with safety laws and regulations attached to the type of tent that they are. But one thing that we have to keep in mind, and I sure hope that the building department will this time around, is enforcing monitoring and making sure that there is no violations taking place. Just because people are eager to make sure that they are providing a great setting and something that is attractive to their clients coming in and customers to eat. but also we can set up all of these rules and regulations, but if we are not monitoring that they are being followed, what is the purpose of them?
I mean, and the only other thought I had was, do we want any uniformity in what these structures look like, that they're made out of wood or plastic, or we don't care?
I personally wouldn't care as long as they meet the code and they're fine with, and the building code, building inspector's fine with it.
As long as they meet code and be safe, I mean, I would trust the restaurants to reflect their own aesthetic, as the restaurants themselves are different. And they're temporary structures, so it's not like a building that's gonna sit on Main or Cedar Street for 150 years.
I tried to put together some guidelines, Nicole, and I realized that, like in every other instance, when you assign that type of task to an architect, it gets too expensive. And so I just really thought it was counterproductive to sort of implement some kind of uniform aesthetic criteria that would then impose certain cost prohibitive measures on the businesses that, the purpose of which is to this outdoor spaces so they can make up lost revenue. So I just abandoned that, and as Larry mentioned, it's potentially we're looking at this for 9 more months or so, and so I think we should just trust the businesses to make the best they can.
Would it be beneficial for us to set up a timeline that these plans should be submitted to the building department?
Like, as far as when they have to be submitted?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think.
Or at least up to when they can be submitted.
I think we've already have people who've applied for already the parklets. I'm not sure if there's any even parklets left. So if they want to submit their plans.
Not the parklet, Mr. Mayor, the structures that we are proving to be built.
Why?
They have to have them approved by the building inspector before they build them. So people will do it as, I would guess, as soon as they choose to.
I think that none of you are following what I'm saying.
I was going to say more. What do you think?
I am saying that they will be, if we set up a time of submission for them to submit these plans, like let's say, if you have an idea of what you're planning to do, you have a month to submit these plans to the building department, because the building department has to go through the process of reviewing and approving, and it's already half of April.
Right, but somebody might not get enough money to do something until July, so they shouldn't have to do it now if they can't do it now.
So we're gonna have construction going on throughout, that's my point in terms of, if you are a restaurant that you have your establishment already set up, you don't want somebody having construction right next to where you already have your restaurant set up and ready to go. So if you think about that, personally, I wouldn't want to be sitting next to a place that is under construction if they're building or setting up anything right next to me.
Yeah, I see now what you're saying, but I don't think that we should be in the business of setting a timeline for people who may not, as Christy say, have the money yet, but can like to build something down the road. It's just my feeling.
I agree. I think we should just trust the businesses to make their decisions. I would assume that the businesses are going to do as much as they think is appropriate as soon as they can. And these are not major construction projects that are going to go on for weeks and months. They're pretty quick setups, I think.
So, okay, are we ready to? Now, I have some of the language, Laura, that you sent, but I don't have.
I actually, that was just like placeholder language. So right. I certainly can enhance that. Again, your license holders are obligated to meet all rules and procedures. So that part of the procedure, the rules and procedures doesn't change. It's really just in the section that talks about what's permitted and what's actually prohibited. It's the prohibited section. And we can just say, any structures of temporary structures of, are permitted only with a prior review and approval by your building inspector.
Right. So we're going to vote on that, and you're going to fill in the language afterwards. But we are voting on, and something you said says unless prior permission obtained from the building department. So that seems sufficient, right? for now?
Right. Yes.
Okay, and I think someone mentioned that, it does have to be taken down by the program ends on November 28th. So the DPW will collect the barriers on Monday to November 29th. So those structures have to be down by then. So,
Yes. Or if the governor, actually, of course, if the governor lifts the statewide health emergency. So that's always a caveat in the back of your mind. So.
But then a question about that, isn't that involving just serving liquor upside?
No, that's for the health and safety of the patrons. And if he lists the statewide health emergency, say in October, if the world opens up again and he lifts that statewide health emergency, you have no more authority to license public property for use by private entities. The reason you're doing it now is in the interest of protecting the health and safety of your residents and the public.
I think that have to be some misunderstanding or comprehension with some of the restaurants about that, because I heard something else. It might be good for us to send information in general, clarifying that detail that you just shared with us.
Okay, it's right in the license agreement that the program is based upon the statewide health emergency. You would have no authority otherwise to permit the presence on public property, which is held for the benefit of the public. So if when we send this out, we want to be sure that we highlight that area of the license agreement, which everybody signs, that says the earlier of the lifting of the ban or November.
That'd be great. Thank you.
okay, so we have to have a motion. I'm going to make a motion to amend the licensing agreement to reflect that the prior permission will be necessary from the building department.
Yeah, I don't think it took formal board action to establish the rules and procedures, but if you're in general agreement, I think, Richard, how would you like to proceed with this?
If there's there was no formal motion approving the original rules. So really, we were just trying to get a sense of the board so that we could make the amendment. So, if that's the sense of the majority, then we can go ahead and do that.
Yes.
Okay, that's the sense.
Okay.
Okay, good. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Action item number 4 is a discussion of the following Earth Day activities: play streets on April 18th, 2021, and ditch your car, bring your wheels on April 24th, 2021. In support of that, we do have email dated April 1st, 2021 from Jennifer Murphy describing that program. And we have an email dated April 8th, 2021 from Miss Jessica Fluger describing that activity. And there is a Play Streets closure request form. So technically, Richard, we're talking about just granting authority to close the street, correct?
Again, we're following the model where you allowed the closing of the street for, I think, a Halloween event. Right. And the other item would be in your parking lot. And it's actually by one of your own entities, the Sustainability Committee. So it's sort of an internal village operation. So yeah, we're just looking for a sense of approval on those two items.
Okay, well, I'm certainly in favor of it. I'd like to hear from the rest of the board.
I'm in favor.
I'm in favor.
In favor. They're gonna be fun.
I have Jen Murphy on the phone if you have any questions about it.
I don't think we have any questions, but okay. So is this any different than us approving the closing of a street for a block party?
It is different because I think you have a formal provision for that in your code.
Okay.
So we followed the same model that you had done for the Halloween event for the street closing.
Okay, so you don't need a formal vote.
No.
Okay, so you have our informal approval. Okay, action item number 5 is to consider a resolution declaring April 30th, 2021 as Arbor Day in the village of Dobbs Ferry. I have a resolution which I will read. I don't see any real problem with this, but I will read the resolution and then we can vote on it. A resolution of the Board of Trustees of the Village of Dobbs Ferry declaring April 30th, 2021 as Arbor Day in the Village of Dobbs Ferry. Whereas in 1872, J. Sterling Morton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for the planting of trees. And whereas this holiday, called Arbor Day, was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska, and whereas Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and world, and whereas trees can reduce the erosion of our precious topsoil by wind and water, cut heating and cooling costs, moderate the temperature, clean the air, produce life-giving oxygen, and provide habitat for wildlife. And whereas trees are a renewable resource giving us paper, wood for our homes, fuel for our fires, and countless other wood products. And whereas trees in our village will increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of business areas, and beautify our community. And whereas trees, wherever planted, are a source of joy and spiritual renewal, and the residents of Dobbs Ferry should do all they can to save the trees we have and plant new ones. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the mayor and board of trustees of the village of Dobbs Ferry declare Friday, April 30th, 2021 is Arbor Day in the village of Dobbs Ferry. And we urge all citizens to celebrate Arbor Day and to support efforts to protect our trees and woodlands. Is there a motion? Trustee Taylor, second. Trustee Sullivan, all in favor? And that passes unanimously. Action item number 6 is a discussion of the establishment of an affordable housing action plan. We have a letter from the Deputy Director of the Land Use Center at PACE, as well as a letter from the Executive Director of the Housing Action Council to the Village of Dobbs Ferry. That letter is dated February 12th, 2020. We also have a letter dated April 6th, 2021 from Tracy Barron, who's the chairperson of the Dobbs Ferry Affordable Housing Task Force. Donna, do you want to shed some light on this?
Yeah, I think Rob summed it up pretty well during the persons to be heard. As he said, the task force has been working on this for a while, getting resources from around the county and the nation on how to go about creating affordable housing here in Dobbs. And the PACE Land Use Committee, Land Use Center is so renowned for they've done so much work on affordable housing. So they're the perfect group to help us with this. And it would help us to focus, to come up with a plan of action of how to create affordable housing. And more importantly, how to access the residents in the village to become participants in this and to support it. So, you know, obviously I'm all for it, and I think it's $3,000 well spent.
Okay, so then let's move to the action item number 7 to authorize the expenditure of this sum. And we have a resolution authorizing the expenditure of the sum of $3,125 to engage the services of Pace University Land Use Law Center and the Housing Action Center to assist in the creation of a fair and affordable housing plan for the village of Dobbs Ferry, as described in that February 12, 2020 letter. I believe that the whole price was $5,000, but there is some money that's being given to us as a grant. So our share would be $3,125. And there's someone, I did take the class, affordable housing class at PACE, and it was an amazing program. I really learned a lot. I got to go on a bus trip and saw some housing throughout the county. So it was a great program, and they do a great job. So I'm certainly in favor of it. So is there a motion to authorize the execution of all agreements to formalize the engagement of Pace University Land Use Center for professional consulting services to assist in the creation of a fair and affordable housing plan for the village at the cost of $3,125? Is there a motion? Trustee Cassell, second. Trustee Nell, all in favor? And that passes unanimously. Thank you, everyone. I'm looking forward to seeing that plan. Action item number 8 is to consider a resolution to waive the 2021 sidewalk cafe permit. Rich, can you talk a little bit about this?
Sure. So I believe last year during the COVID pandemic, the village waived the $150 annual fee for sidewalk cafes. So we had some interest expressed this year, and the inquiry was made whether the fee could be waived again since the virus is not quite over yet.
Okay, I do think we did it last year. What is the fee anyway?
It's $150.
Okay. So we want to have any discussion about that before we actually vote on it? I'm fine with it. Does anyone want to discuss it?
I would just say that the $150 on our end from these folks is a lot less impactful than it might be for them. I mean, every dollar really counts for some of these businesses. And so I support being able to waive it if we can.
Anybody against it? Okay, so let me make this motion. It's a resolution of the Village of Dobbs Ferry Board of Trustees to waive the fees for sidewalk cafe permits in 2021. Whereas in furtherance of its effort to address the impacts of COVID-19 on local businesses, especially restaurants, and the risks posed by the pandemic to the health and welfare of its residents and the public, the Board of Trustees of the Village of Dobbs Ferry hereby temporarily waive the $150 sidewalk cafe permit fee as set forth in the master fee schedule for the 2021 season, which is April 1st, 2021 through November 30th, 2021. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Dobbs Ferry hereby waives the 2021 sidewalk cafe permit. Is there a motion? Trustee Nell, second. Trustee Patino, all in favor? That passes unanimously. I'm doing a lot of reading here tonight. I'm going to have no voice at the end of this. I'm going to start picking on you guys to start reading. Action item number 9 is to consider a resolution to award the bid for Gould Park Playground improvements to P. Corsetti, Inc. in the amount of $323,766.75 as recommended by Suzette Lopin, landscape architect, Westchester County, and Kendra Garrison, superintendent of recreation. As part of our information, we do have the bids that were made by 4 companies, and we do have the letter from Westchester County, and we do have a memo from Kendra regarding these bids. Richard, is there anything light you want to shed on this?
Well, Corsetti is the low bidder here and came recommended by the county and also by Kendra. And they also happen to be a pretty well recognized and respected playground install company. So I think it's good to go.
Any other comments by anyone?
Yeah, I have a quick comment. Doing some calculations, and I know we talked in the past informally about additional funding coming from the rec fund. My calculation is just shy of $47,100 would be required to make this happen. I believe that needs formal board approval as well.
And that has to be done today?
It does not. I don't think it has to be done today, but I didn't know if you wanted to bring it back again on another agenda.
Well, I guess we could do it today. How much is that? 47,000?
Up to $47,100.
Okay.
And the rec commission had recommended that we use another $50,000 for the Gould Park playground. So
great.
Yeah, and I was really I was fairly certain that it would come in higher. So it's encouraging to see this, and I think we all want this to happen soon. So I'd be in favor of doing that now.
Okay. So Laura Lee, do I need to do this as 2 separate motions or resolutions, as you would say? Yes.
I would split them apart just to be sure that you have it in the public record.
Okay, so make sure I do this correctly. So first one is Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Dobbs Ferry hereby awards the bid for the Gould Park Playground improvements to P. Corsetti in the amount of $323 and $323,766.75. Is there a motion? Trustee Patino, second. Trustee Sullivan, all in favor? That passes unanimously. Now, is there a motion to transfer $47,100 from the recreation fee to the general fund to pay? No, I knew I was going to do this wrong. So,
There's a capital project established for it.
so I'm transferring it to the capital project that's been established for this. Correct?
But before you go any further, Richard, is there a contingency percentage built into this number? I don't see it in the spreadsheet, so I'm assuming no. And then, do we want to authorize some contingency, 10% or something like that, so that we do not have to come back and discuss small, increases for unforeseen conditions and the like?
Well, we can always hope that it comes in within the bid contract price. That would be the best of all possible worlds. If there was no contingency built into the contract, honestly, I would rather leave it alone and hope that it can be brought in within the project contract price. That's the way it's supposed to be. And if it's properly managed, it very well can. That would be my recommendation. I wouldn't give any additional sway to someone who might be wondering if there are additional funds.
We tell the contractor this. I'm just saying we just, so for small things, they can be approved by yourself or Jeff without having to come back to the board to assign more money, because
I understand your point, but I mean, that's up to you all. Personally, I'd like them to bring it in within the price.
Okay, let's go. We'll take your advice. Okay.
So is there a motion to assign $47,100 from the recreation fund to the capital project fund that has been designated for Gould Park Playground? Trustee Sullivan, second. Trustee Taylor, all in favor? That passes unanimously. Thank you. Looking forward to it. Action item number 10 is the discussion of Dobbs Ferry Youth Services Coalition referral of a proposal from Epiphany Community Services for evaluator services, and consider a resolution to accept the proposal and authorize execution of agreements based on the proposal for an annual fee not to exceed $10,500. Is there someone who can speak on this?
I see Justin Kamke is in the audience. I think he could speak to it.
Good. Put him on.
Yeah, he's going to elaborate a little bit more for us.
Good evening.
Justin.
How are we doing? Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Board. Thank you, Jeff. Yeah, just to go over this, I missed it when you guys were just talking. I don't know if you said anything after when you guys were letting on. Was more are we going to say anything or?
No.
Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, this is a grant. We have the drug-free community grant. I'm Justin Kamke. I'm with the Youth Service Council for like 12 years. I'm the police department liaison and like ex officio member. Right now, our coordinator moved to Hawaii. So, and one of our chairs stepped down. So I'm kind of filling in for that tonight. So basically, yeah, so we had the grant, the drug-free community grant for the last 5 years. We got re-upped for the next 6 to 10 years. So we get $125,000 a year for each year for the next 5 years. And part of the grant is we have to have two annual reports that are done. And those basically, we have surveys that we do within the village with the public school and master school. And we're looking to do it with also Mercy College. We've been doing those surveys for the last 8 years for basically core measures of youth abuse of use and abuse of drugs. So we've been putting that stuff together. And a coordinator, the coordinator position and the evaluator we have to put together to actually put these reports together in these next 6 through 10 years. So it's not only requirement through the grant, but it's also going to help us realize all the stuff that we need to do to strengthen our infrastructure and to sustain like local youth substance abuse and all the activities we've been doing for the last 4 years. Last year was kind of a miss. You know, a lot of our stuff is social and interactive. So COVID kind of put us behind last year. So we weren't doing many events, but now due to COVID and due to a lot of mental health issues for young adults, we're seeing more and more uptake in the things that we need to cover. So this evaluator will help us kind of figure out through our survey and through our all our other activities where we need to focus our all the stuff that we need to do with the grant, basically.
So you're gonna have a professional come in, evaluate the village, evaluate the program, the grant, and then but recommend where the money will be best used?
Yeah, so this is going to be, there's no real, it's coming in, it's all via like Zoom and via like, emails and, sending out all our documents. We have 5 years of documents, almost 8 years of documents from all the stuff we did even before we got the grant. So we're sending out all that information to them. They kind of look at that. They look at our social media, kind of all the events we do, plus all the documentation, and kind of see what things we may be missing on or where things we're doing well and how we could kind of do things better, or where we could allocate money to help the things that are going on. Like I said, especially now with post COVID and kids, youth dealing with a lot of stuff going on without with different social events and stuff like that. So we're trying to focus our strengths and become a better coalition. You've been with us, Mayor. You were our youth service liaison for years, and we've been doing a great job with the other things like the holiday hustle and stuff like that. But there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff that goes on that's not really publicized. That's dealing with the Kelly Foster's our prevention specialist that's in the high school. The grant pays for her to be there a couple days a week, and the school pays for the other half. And she sees a lot of kids that have some sort of some sort of things going on in the household, whether it be themselves or their family members of some sort of addiction problems. So a lot of stuff that goes on that we don't see, but the evaluator could kind of give us the answers to what we need to do. And there's no cost to the village. Like I said, this is all through the grant money. That money is already kind of allocated through our budget. And that's kind of a portion that was going to be allocated towards an evaluation and surveys and stuff like that. So it's zero cost to the village. It's a grant through, it was a grant through the White House, and now that moved over to the CDC right before COVID. Now the CDC runs the drug-free community grant.
Okay, so I know we have the information in our packet. Does anybody else have any other questions for Justin?
Perfect.
Okay, I want to thank you, Justin, for taking the time tonight. I know you were out directing traffic all day today, so you
we made sure you got through quickly, Mayor. We had the
no special favors for me. Wait in line like everybody else.
I'm just kidding. We're doing our best out there to keep the traffic flowing. It is what it is.
I just want everyone to know that the Ashford Avenue, I've gotten a lot of emails. I'm sure the village administrator's gotten a lot of emails. I'm sure DPW has gotten. It's really out of our hands. We're doing the best we can to maintain a safe environment for everyone so we can get this project moving along as quickly as possible. And I know it's very inconvenient, and I know it's taking people a lot longer to get by on Ashford Avenue, but we have to do it the safe way and the correct way. And I want to thank the police department for their patience and being out there. So thank you. So I do have a
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, board. Thank you.
So I'm going to read the motion. Whereas Dobbs Ferry Youth Service Coalition has referred a proposal dated February 15, 2021 to the Board of Trustees from Epiphany Community Services to provide detailed and itemized outcome-based evaluation services to the coalition for an annual fee of $10,500. Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby recommends acceptance of the proposal dated February 15, 2021 by Epiphany Community Services for evaluation services in support of the Dobbs Ferry Youth Services Coalition, and authorizes the interim village administrator to execute all necessary agreements in furtherance of the scope of services as described in said proposal, with all fees to be paid from the grant funds held by the village for the benefit of the Dobbs Ferry Youth Service Coalition, provided that the agreements are acceptable to the village attorney. Is there a motion? Trustee DeRozzi. Is there a second? Trustee Patino, all in favor? And that passes unanimously. So thank you, Justin.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Board. Appreciate it.
Thanks. Right.
Action item number 11 is to consider a resolution for budget transfers for the close out of the Gould Park Pool Project Agreement with Norberto Construction Incorporated. So I do know that we have a memo from Kendra and Jeff dated April 1st, 2021, which details the pool change orders and the need for the approving the following funds. So maybe Richard or Jeff or both can speak to that.
I mean, I'll defer to Jeff because it's kind of, I came in after the fact, but I think Kendra, with three of us met and discussed this. These were all items that were changed in the course of the construction. And I would just defer to Jeff, and then for source of funds also, Jeff.
Right, yeah, there's an outline of what changes were made to the original agreement with Norberto. Would propose a budget amendment in the amount of $187,947.15, which would come from the appropriated fund balance, the savings account.
Okay, so we do have a list of what changes were made. It looks like, and am I reading this correctly? The total changes, what 237 that you're asking us for is $237,698.84.
Total changes for the project were 237. You approved in a prior meeting, looks like September of 2019, you approved about $50,000 of that. So we're just asking for the difference right now.
Okay.
Include any of the credits we were supposed to receive for them going over?
I'm only seeing a credit for lifeguard chairs on this outline. I think Kendra dealt with Norberto on all other potential credits.
Well, I know that we had gotten some that, I mean, because they were supposed to complete it by a date certain, you know, subject to weather contingencies or whatever. So, I mean, I don't remember the exact date, but say it was July 1st and you know, we got X amount of dollars for each day they were over, and I don't know what the overage day was.
I will talk with Kendra tomorrow to confirm that that was applied.
Laura Lee, do you think, I mean, are you aware of any of this whatsoever, that we may have been entitled to some credits?
No, I wasn't charged with monitoring this. I think your former village administrator was really doing the day-to-day monitoring of the project and authorizing changes. And a lot of this stuff looks like it was as a result of maybe design issues. I can't really speak to it. I'm sorry.
So Nicole, are you comfortable with approving this, or what do you think we should wait for further investigation?
I mean, I know that there was discussions about it, and I think we should be informed about what happened because it was a term of the contract. I mean, I'm happy to approve it subject to, you know, them sharing the information with us, but I think it's important. And I think if the change orders are due to design defects, I mean, do we have any remedies for that? I mean, we didn't design the project. You know, the Department of Health reviewed this thing ad nauseum. Our building department signed off on it, and we had our outside architect, I don't remember who they were, that designed the pool for us.
Yeah, but you know, for instance, it looks like the biggest expenditure is the slides foundation, which looks like we upgraded the slide and the engineering of it. So
we did. That is a change order. We did. The board approved that.
So,
well, it wasn't. Okay, so I was told that all these were approved by the board, but they were not formally approved in a meeting. That's what I'm trying to get done here.
I get it.
Oh, I see what you're saying. I remember the slide because we did get a bigger slide.
Well, I mean, is it, to Nicole's point, is it possible to approve this, but make it contingent on a final reconciliation of total payments versus any credits that may have been pending or due?
That sounds fine to me. Is that okay with you, Laura Lee? If we do it that way, we approving it, but then so this way Jeff has
I
the,
would, right.
yeah, so Jeff has then can decide to pay it, you know, once he reviews it. Okay.
Yeah, provide Jeff with the authority and then, you know, Jeff, we could seek additional information to see how the settlement on the fines associated with the delay in completion were allocated. Because you're right, the only credit that's listed here is the lifeguard chairs.
You know what, we can follow up with Kendra tomorrow. And if you want to approve it subject to, we will email you what her response is. And if it's good to go, we'll be fine.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, so I'm going to read the resolution. Resolved to adopt the following budget amendment for fiscal year 2020-21 and resolved to approve the Gould Park Pool Capital Project change orders, reflect and approve change orders and additional funding for the Gould Park Pool Project, increase appropriated fund balance, $187,947.15, increase the interfund transfers, capital fund, $187,947.15. Is there a motion? Trustee DeRozzi, second. Trustee Sullivan, all in favor? All against?
Abstaining. I wasn't on the board at that time, so it's hard for me to comment on this.
Okay, so we have 6 in favor and 1 abstention. That's Trustee Patino. Okay.
And Jeff and I will follow up tomorrow with Kendra. We'll get back to you with an email.
Okay. Action item number 12 is to consider a resolution authorizing Chief of Police Guevara to execute an intermunicipal agreement with the County of Westchester for participation in the Positive Youth Development Program. We have a memo from Police Officer Betts dated March 31st, 2021, which explains the program. We also have a copy of the agreement regarding the program. I don't know if there's anybody here who can speak to it, but we do have the description of it.
Back in, I think around in September, you approved the same agreement for the 2019 fiscal year. The county, there's a program where they'll reimburse for some of the time of the youth officer. That's really all this is, an approval, formal approval of being able to draw those funds down.
Okay, so I'm going to read the resolution. Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby authorizes Chief of Police Guevara to execute an intermunicipal agreement with the County of Westchester for participation in the Positive Youth Development Program, which includes reimbursement of $2,285 for program services to be provided by the police department. Is there a motion? Trustee Patino, second. Trustee Sullivan, all in favor? That passes unanimously. Action item number 13 is to consider a resolution to authorize the 10th annual Riverkeeper Sweep on Saturday, May 1st, 2021 at the Dobbs Ferry Waterfront Park from 3 o'clock to 5 o'clock p.m. We have a letter dated April 7th, 2021 from Kirsten Connolly outlining it, the details of it. And is there any discussion regarding this? Okay, so be it resolved, I'm going to read the resolution. Be it resolved that the Village of Dobbs Ferry Board of Trustees hereby authorizes the 10th annual Riverkeeper Sweep on Saturday, May 1st, 2021 at the Dobbs Ferry Waterfront Park from 3 o'clock to 5 o'clock. Donna, is this the one that you and I went to where I went into the water and pulled out that big piece of boat? It looked like, is that the one?
It seems to be the same one. It's usually done by the CAB, but yeah, you wouldn't believe the size of the thing he pulled out of that water. It gets bigger every year. Yes, if that's Riverkeeper Suite, that would be that, yeah.
Is there a motion? Trustee Nell, second. Trustee Cassell, all in favor? That passes unanimously. Action item number 14 is to consider a resolution approving a request for a block party from Yair and Rachel Klein on 10 Constance Avenue on May 24th, 2021, from 5 o'clock to 7 o'clock. Is there a motion to grant this approval?
Just, that's my neighborhood, but it's not a block party. It's a private party. Just so it's clear.
Oh.
Are we allowed to do that for a private party?
I mean, it's an outdoor bat mitzvah celebration for their daughter and their son. It's a bar and bat mitzvah for 2 hours.
Oh, are we allowed to close the street for a private
They
party?
didn't say it was a block party in their email.
I'm sorry.
I think we've done it before. I know we did it for Maggie Segrich, and so I don't have any objection to doing it. And I think it's nice, especially in the pandemic, because you can't have these, indoor gatherings, and they're saying the max of people is going to be 25 people. So I'm not saying, I just wanted the record to be clear, but I definitely think we should approve it. I mean, there's no reason really not to. It's one small side street and then random neighborhood, like a dead end neighborhood that nobody goes to except the police to patrol it all day.
But for precedent's sake, because this could potentially get out of hand, I think the point that being that this is the pandemic and people can't have these parties inside should be one of the reasons why we would approve this.
I think that's a good idea, actually.
Yeah, because I feel like that other one that you're referring to wasn't, I think we all kind of realized after the fact that it should have been like that.
And we have denied these in the past for private, but it doesn't come to the board. Usually it doesn't come this far.
This
I
is
have
Mr.
Klein.
This is the same as in the nature of the parklets program, where it's
Exactly.
for public health and safety reasons. I'm sorry, Elisa, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No.
So
I just wanted to let you know Mr. Klein is on the raising his hand if you want to hear.
I don't think that's necessary right now, but Laura Lee, you're okay with this, legally doing this?
I
Laura Lee,
think
can
with some
change-
amendment of the resolution, you can clearly cover yourselves. First of all, we can remove block party out of there, and we can say, therefore, be it resolved in the interest of public health and safety in light of the statewide declaration of a health emergency, you authorize this, and you have to make sure that whoever's hosting the party then is responsible for enforcement of all of the pandemic.
I mean, maybe he wants to speak because maybe I got it wrong. I mean, that was my understanding, but I don't want to misspeak about what they're asking.
Okay, you can.
We should ask for contact tracing though, for any block party or something like this.
Otherwise, I think there shouldn't be an issue with doing it with the pandemic.
Mr. Klein?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Hi, good evening, Mr. Mayor and board members. I want to clarify, this is a celebration for our son and our daughter's bar and bat mitzvah, but we are opening it to all of our neighbors. So I don't know what you want to call it. It is open to the block.
Yeah.
And some friends and family that are coming in. So I just want to clarify for the record, the kind of event that it is.
Okay.
That's fair. I'm sorry. That's true. I'm sorry. I should have added that.
Okay. Since it is open to the whole block.
It is, yeah. It's not private. I shouldn't have said that. That was my error. I apologize.
Yeah, you can treat it as you would a block party, and certainly you can reference that the block party host will need to comply with the necessary regulations and guidance, and they can receive that information from the administrator's office directly, what regulations they would need to comply with.
Are you okay with that, Mr. Klein? It would be your responsibility to make sure that people comply?
Absolutely.
Okay. So then I will read the resolution. Therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the request from Yara and Rachel Klein at 10 Constance Avenue, Dobbs Ferry, to close Constance Avenue between Fairlawn on May 24th, 2021. They're closing it between Constance Avenue and Fairlawn? Is that what that is?
The Constance Avenue street is a street that's within a loop that's Fairlawn. That's why it's between Fairlawn and Fairlawn. It's just
the typo there, sorry. Okay, between Fairlawn and Fairlawn on May 24th, 2021, from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. Is there a motion? Trustee Sullivan, second. Trustee DeRozzi, all in favor? Okay, that passes unanimously. Good luck, Mr. Klein. Mr. and Mrs.
Thank you
Klein,
very much.
my children, good luck.
Thank you.
Mazel tov.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Action item number 15 is to consider a resolution to approve the audit of claims as submitted and recommended by the village treasurer. Jeff, you have anything to add?
Just that one of the final payments for Norberto is on here that will hold until we can get you the Trustee Sullivan's question answered.
Okay.
Otherwise, it's just a normal audit.
Okay, is there a motion? Trustee Taylor, second. Trustee Cassell, all in favor? That passes unanimously. Okay, I guess we're at action item number 16, which is a motion to permit pollinator pathway medallions on private property. Larry, do you want to speak to this?
Sure, and Elisa has a screen she can share, which is a picture of these medallions. This is
Also, Kathy Dean is on the line, just so you know.
Kathy was she'll raise her hand if she needs to correct us or add anything, but she's here just to answer questions if need be.
Okay.
Because we were going to try and keep this brief. These medallions are part of a multi-village pollinator pathway series to encourage gardens to be grown and recognized by residents who want to help pollinators, which are a very important part of our ecosystem. And these signs are placards, these things are quite small. They are 5 3/4 inches in diameter, and they would be placed by families who are growing plants that encourage pollinators and that don't use pesticides in their gardens. So a very simple ask. Hastings is in the process of doing this, and I believe it's already been in place. Elisa, is it Irvington's done this for a while?
Yeah. Am I muted?
We hear you.
No. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, Irvington, I believe Ardsley is, and then it's actually a growing movement across the Hudson Valley in Connecticut.
How do you see the signs? Like,
It's like a stake in your garden. It's like it's 5.75 inches wide, and it's a stake in your yard.
Kathy has her hand up now, Elisa. So
okay. I'm going to stop sharing for a second. Sorry.
You're on mute, Kathy.
Okay, there's 2 little holes in the sign, so you can either put it on a stake or you can hang it. But they're very small signs. The reason they're red is Hastings has already taken blue. And Hastings took a bumblebee, and I think Ardsley took a butterfly. So we chose the ruby-throated hummingbird, which is why the sign is red. Our first choice would have been blue for Dobbs Ferry, but Hastings is blue.
But doesn't red attract bees and pollinators, the color itself?
Yeah, well, and the ruby-throated hummingbird has a red throat. That's why the red.
And the hummingbird is cooler than the bee. That's the
Absolutely.
Okay, so is there a motion to authorize the use of these pollinator pathway medallions on private property? Trustee Taylor, second. Trustee Nell, all in favor? That passes unanimously. Congratulations, Kathy.
Hi, Rick.
Thanks, Kathy.
Rick and I
Kathy and
haven't
I-
seen each other for 30 or 40 years.
Kathy and I have a history.
Oh.
Oh.
Being
Uh-oh.
recorded.
Take
A
that
good
offline.
history.
Congratulations and thank you, Kathy, for everything.
Okay,
that-
thank you.
Thanks.
I'm gonna catch you soon, Kathy.
Stop. Action item number 17 is a plan to Chauncey Park. I want to apologize to Mr. Kerr. I hope he's still around. He is.
There he
Okay.
is.
Thank you for waiting. Yes.
No,
thank-
no, my pleasure, my pleasure. This is an important issue that as you'll hear, a number of people are interested, including myself, so I'm more than pleased to wait. So yesterday, I sent a letter to the board about the status of the village's application to purchase an 8.4 acre parcel of surplus state-owned property on the west side of the Sawmill River. The purpose of this transaction is so the village can combine this parcel with two adjacent park parcels owned by the village and thereby create a new 14-acre village-owned park between Smithfield Avenue and Danforth Avenue along the west side of the Sawmill River. As I described in my letter, this project has been in the works for over 2 years. It began when a Dobbs Ferry resident in Hickory Hill contacted us to inquire about this property and said that he was interested in preserving this open space, potentially as a park. When I say we, I'm a co-chair of the Greater Irvington Land Trust. We researched the history of the property and began discussions with a wide group of folks, including the Dobbs Ferry Superintendent of Parks, the Sustainability Task Force, the then Village Administrator, Groundwork Hudson Valley, Sawmill River Coalition, and a number of Dobbs Ferry residents. And in July of last year, we held one of our several walking tours of the property with Ed Manley, who was the interim village administrator, with County Legislator Mary Jane Shimsky, and members of the Sustainability Task Force and the CAB. Both Mr. Manley and Ms. Shimsky expressed strong support for combining the village and state-owned parcels and create a new village park. This park would meet a number of important goals for the Dobbs Ferry community. It would put in place a key part of the Dobbs Ferry vision plan to preserve this area as woodland and open space. It also follows up on the requirements put in place by the village when the Rivertown Square was approved by the planning board. It would also create a woodland pathway that will connect currently disconnected neighborhoods on the east side of Dobbs Ferry and create a new park in this part of the village. And finally, it'll also serve to protect the Sawmill River watershed as part of the village's overall efforts to address climate change. The village submitted its application to purchase this property last September, and in November, the New York State Department of Transportation wrote to the village and confirmed that its request to purchase the surplus property had been approved by the regional director. The process then turned over to the county, which has to waive its rights to the property. The county attorney has reviewed and endorsed the transfer of the property to the village, and the proposal will now be submitted to the county parks board early next month as this next step to have then legislation passed by county. We therefore ask the board to take the steps it needs to do to approve the transaction before the county parks board next meeting in early May. I think our letter is fairly self-explanatory, but if there's any questions, I'm more than willing to answer any questions anybody has about the proposal or the proposed park.
No, I think your letter was very well, lays out everything very distinctly, and I appreciate how detailed it was. So thank you. Is there anything you want to add to this, Donna or Richard?
The other thing I would add is that we did something similar a couple of years ago when we purchased, there was a parcel in Chauncey Park that belonged to the county. And we purchased that a couple of years ago. So this is now just adding to that whole parcel down there, which I think there was a while we didn't even know whether that land was available, who owned it. So we're very grateful to Chet and his group to dig that up for us, but I think it's a great idea to combine all those parcels, make it part of Dobbs Ferry Park once and for all, and dedicate it as parkland.
Yeah,
I
I just
think-
want to, I'm sorry.
Go
I
ahead,
just wanted to
Richard.
thank Mr. Kerr for his extensive explanation of all the work that's gone into this. Clearly a wonderful, exciting project. And I thank him for bringing me up to date. I want to take this opportunity to make sure that the board was all on board, because we're now entering the final steps and when you're going to be actually taking title. So at our next meeting, we'll have a formal resolution from council that will authorize that, and then you'll be able to go forward.
The
I
one
just
thing
add
that we did do with respect to the Chauncey property, and I don't know if it's been done here, and I don't know what any former uses of this parcel might be or have been, but whether or not there needs to be any environmental diligence before the village takes title to just ensure that, this thing isn't, that, there wasn't some use that generated what could be an environmental liability for the village. I think that's something that could be done expeditiously, maybe just with a phase 1 environmental. There are others on the call who are probably more informed on the subject than I.
So with respect to that question, as far as I know, there's no but formal review done, but we have done a history of this entire parcel, and I could provide you with the owners of the parcel. It is actually acquired by the county back in 1927. They acquired it as part of the potential construction of the Sawmill River Parkway. And before that, it had been owned largely as an estate and then originally as a farm. I'm in that history, I'm aware of no industrial use of the property whatsoever, but I can't say that anyone that to my knowledge, has ever done an environmental review of the property.
This shouldn't be an obstacle for us. It would be more just to check the box to make sure that we're not, going to be ending up with a problem.
A phase 1 is a documentary search. So I would recommend before you take formal title, that, we just order a phase 1 from an appropriate entity, and at least we'll have covered ourselves.
And I don't know what's involved with that, but I can give that entity a history of the ownership of the property back to the Revolutionary War with every single deed and everything. We've got it all documented. So that's at least a start.
Having seen your memo, I'm not surprised that you have it all documented. Thank you.
An excellent memo and an excellent suggestion from Trustee Taylor. I think it's a great idea. So we'll check it out.
Okay. And can I just say that and I appreciate Richard's kind words, but this has really been an effort by a lot of Dobbs Ferry residents, including Alyssa and Sue Galloway at the CAP and other people who've kind of chimed in, and Trustee Cassell. And so it's a group effort to do this by far.
Well, thank you to everyone. It's a great project. It's a great idea. It really give us more parkland, and we can, especially on this side of the village, we can use it. So I'm all in favor of it. So unless there's other opposition to it, I'd say let's do it and put it over until April 27th. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, certainly, Mr. Carter.
Do we need a formal resolution for the Westchester County Park Department?
Not
Well,
yet.
we're gonna put it on for the next meeting. So
Okay, right, good,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
And can I just say thank you to the board for looking at this project. That it's going to be something great for Dobbs Ferry. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, action item number 18 is to approve the Sawmill River cleanup. I don't have the date. Richard, do you have the date?
I have
Somebody have the date, Alyssa?
April
Chet probably
24th,
has it.
Saturday, April 24th.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And do we know the time?
Oh, okay, I'll get it.
Don't worry about it. I'll just say we're,
I think it's 3 hours. It's
I
not,
think it starts at 10.
I think it's 10 to 1.
and
Actually.
where is it being done?
Actually, I'm going to allow Chet Kerr to talk because he's Chauncey Park is one of the sites.
Yeah, so this, again, is Chet Kerr of Greater Irvington Land Trust. I'm actually the site manager for the Chauncey part of the Sawmill River cleanup. It will be from, at least in Chauncey Park, it will be from 10 to 1. I believe the other site in Dobbs Ferry is also 10 to 1. It will be staffed by site managers. There will be safety protocols followed. We are going to have liability waivers signed by everybody, and they'll be supervised throughout the entire time. And I know that Groundwork Hudson was putting together, has been working with the DPW about, after we collect the trash, to have it properly picked up and make sure that it's all cleaned up completely.
Chad, can you tell us the other site in Dobbs Ferry?
I think it's I think it might be, I'm not sure. I think it's the Lawrence
Street. It's
Lawrence
Lawrence Street. It's right across the highway, and
yeah,
they've been doing that site for years.
Yes.
Okay. So is there a motion to approve the Sawmill River cleanup on April 24th from 10 to 1 at Chauncey Park, Lawrence Street, and other locations located in Dobbs Ferry? Trustee Nell, second. Trustee DeRozzi, all in favor? Okay, that passes unanimously. Okay, we have the minutes from our March 23rd, 2021 meeting and our March 26th, 2021 meeting. Are there any comments, suggestions regarding those minutes? Okay, is there a motion to accept those minutes? Trustee Cassell? Wait, you know what? I may have to divide it because I wasn't sure. Was everybody at both meetings? I don't think Trustee Nell was at one of the meetings. I know Laura Lee's looking at me saying it doesn't matter.
There's no law that requires formal adoption of minutes. So it doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. Every week you're going to tell me the same thing. So we're going to do, is there a motion to adopt the minutes of March 23rd and March 26th, 2021? Trustee Sullivan, second. Trustee DeRozzi, all in favor? That passes 6-0 because Trustee Nell is not going to, she's going to abstain, even though she doesn't have to.
Oh, I want to vote. Redo it.
Okay. Trustee liaison reports, traffic committee.
That's me. Let's see. They sent over, the traffic committee sent over a set of recommendations for what they would want us to prioritize in terms of 2021 infrastructure projects. I think that they actually just sent it to me and Richard and maybe the mayor, but I'm going to forward it to everybody. And I asked Richard if he thinks it would be a good idea to have them come present their reasoning for what projects they would want us to consider. So we're going to see about that because it's interesting as to why they prioritize it in a certain way. So other than that, we're still working on the 20 mile per hour stuff. Lori Lee, somebody has an update on that, right?
Yeah, and I'm hoping to actually have that. I was working on it today. I'm hoping to have that ready for your next board meeting, actually.
Yay. Okay. And that's it.
Okay.
Oh, wait, no, they also sent a set of recommendations for the planning board for the project. I know Jeff's laughing at me. For the project on Ashford, the latest version. So I think we should all read that in advance of when we have our joint meeting that we're apparently going to have, right, Donna?
Yeah.
The planning board, AHRB, and us again on the revised version of the Ashford project. So keep an eye out for that and read it ahead of time.
Okay, thank you. Youth Service Council?
I actually was just reviewing some of the numbers that we just received this morning. As you heard me saying before, we launched a PSA, a new one, just on beginning, end of April, end of March, beginning of April. And I just got some very exciting numbers. We have switched our platform from YouTube to actually Facebook and Instagram. And some of the numbers that I received this morning state that on Facebook from April 6th to April 12th, we have 25,776 viewers that actually watched the 60-second clip. 37,270 impressions, and 332 links onto the actual link. Then on Instagram, during the same time period of April 6th to April 12th, we have 2,168, 35,625 impressions. This was the second time that we launched the ad, and the name of this PSA was called Find Your Moment. I'm going to share it with the board so that you guys can see it. They did an outstanding job. I want to really thank Barry Sherman, our former chair, the pioneer, and the one that actually produced the whole entire process. So this is Jonathan Clayman, of course, Kelly Foster, Joe Koss, and Justin Kanke, who you heard speak earlier. This is some of the stuff that they have done to try to innovating ways of engaging our youth, although we are completely virtual. So they have done a really, really nice job. And I want to thank them publicly for everything that they did on this particular project and beyond. We are looking for a chair. If anybody's interested, please send those applications to the nominating committee. And also I was speaking with Stephen Tresser, and we are very excited that we are going to finally do something for the beautification of the village this year. As many of you know, we're not able to do much because of the pandemic. And that's the reason why I was a little concerned about you guys putting a time window about these proposals for construction, as we of course will not like to beautify the village and then have construction going on. We know that we want to support the restaurants, but you know, it's the effort to make sure that the village looks beautiful. And that's, I think, all I have.
Thank you, Maura. Parks and Rec?
I wasn't able to attend their meeting last night. I had a conflict, so I didn't get an update, but I do know that the camp information's coming out. They're trying to finalize where to do camp because the school said they're doing construction and other things in Springhurst, so we're not able to use it. We've reached out to Mercy and they're thinking about it, but we're not optimistic that it's going to happen. And the master's school isn't letting anyone use their facilities this summer. So they're just trying to figure that out. But the camp information, which I know people are anxious about because it usually comes out in April, should be out the next week or two.
Thank you. AHRB? Nothing?
Nothing of note.
Okay. Alyssa, could you just talk about the sustainability programs that we're planning for the grid rewards and solar?
Sure, it's a friendly competition in the river towns. We've got 2 community campaigns. The mayor's reputation is on the line, so everybody needs to sign up for the grid rewards.
Last we looked, we were losing 36-24 to Hastings. So
yeah,
I was gonna ask who's keeping track of the numbers.
Yeah, Sustainable Westchester sending us updates. Everybody, the first to get to 50 has to. I think something like all the other mayors have to wear that community's colors at a dinner or something like that, right, Mayor?
Wait,
50 signups, 50 signups.
The first of 50, and we're at
hard.
I know it's not hard, so everybody sign up, and it's actually a really good
I did
program.
sign up.
Who on the board has not done it? I've done it.
So grid rewards, just to quickly explain, if you want more impetus, it's you simply you sign up through this program that Sustainable Westchester is sponsoring, partnering with Logical Solutions, something like that. You get notification from your Con Ed, your utility company, when the grid is at peak and needs a little bit of support. And if you turn up your thermometer a little bit, so your air conditioning takes a break, you actually will get money back from Con Ed for doing so, because during peak times when the grid is overtaxed, they have to they have to turn to dirty energy power plants in order to support, and it's more expensive. So it's both financially and ecologically a good thing to help reduce the impact on the grid in the summertime. So sign up by the end of the month.
Tell us how to sign up.
So if you go to sustainablewestchester.com, I mean, isn't that right? So sustainablewestchester.org. I'm going to have it in the newsletter this Thursday, but yeah, if you want to rush so that we can definitely make sure that we don't have to wear Hastings colors. You go to sustainablewestchester.org/grid rewards. And it's one of the Sustainable Westchester programs. Patty Steinschneider's on the meeting, and he is the volunteer leading the effort for Sustainability Task Force. And then the other program briefly is Community Solar. You might have heard about it. If you have solar panels on your home, you're the only person who can't sign up for this. Otherwise, it's renters, homeowners, anyone who wants to support solar development but can't have solar panels on their home. You sign up and you get 10% off your energy bill. I've been doing it for some time. It's easy. I pay 10% less than I would every month, and I'm supporting the development of renewable energy. So those are the two things.
Texting people right now.
So we're having some kind of a program on April 16th, I think it is.
Sunday, April 18th at 5 p.m. just to help people sign up if they haven't already done so. And then another one with other river towns on April 22nd. But come to the one on the 18th and we'll get everybody to sign up. Yeah.
Yes. So if you could put that out to your friends and neighbors, that would be great.
Yeah.
Any other?
Lisa, if you could send everybody on the board that link and maybe request, we can all send it out to people that we know and say, this is a program you should do.
Great.
With the information right in front of them, people are more likely to follow through and sign up.
How many people do we have already?
I mean, the last report I got was last week, and it was we were at 24. So we actually, I'll say one other thing of interest to the board. Each community campaign makes us eligible for a $5,000 grant, so a total of $10,000 from NYSERDA, the Clean Energy Communities Program, and we have already passed that threshold. I know the minimum is 10, so if you get 10 signups, you're eligible for this grant. So now we can submit to the Clean Energy Communities Program and get those funds.
Thank you, Alyssa.
Mm-hmm.
Any other announcements? I do want to, first of all, wish a happy birthday to Liz Draper. It's a happy birthday to Liz.
Happy birthday, Liz.
Happy birthday, girl.
And I know, everyone is upset with the amount of potholes, Ashford Avenue. I totally understand it. I know Steve Trezza and the DPW was out in force last week. They hit the whole village, filling up as many potholes as they could. But I know that it's a major undertaking. We're doing everything we can. I know, especially Ashford is in horrible shape. There are other roads. We do have a plan. We have a list of roads that we do pave. We'll take and we try to maintain that list on we update that list on an upgoing basis. So we are aware of the situation. DPW is working on what we can work on now to repair the worst potholes. But please be patient with us and drive carefully. So.
I can tell you that I have it in front of my house and in the back of my house. So I couldn't come inside my house today. So trust me, I can totally empathize with you all.
That's right. For those who live on Ashford, it must be much, much worse. So
Donna's enjoying the sound.
But hopefully they'll make improvements on that. I don't have a time frame for that. I don't know if Richard does at all. I guess not. So
I didn't hear you. Sorry.
do you have any time frame for when this project on Ashford is going to be
I
done?
don't have it. I spoke to Steve today and yesterday, and we're gonna see if we can come up with a plan to maybe do a more comprehensive paving. There is an opportunity sometimes to take money in lieu of having Con Ed do patchwork and whatever. So we can do the whole thing, but I need him to give me a comprehensive street list so we can see if we can coordinate that.
Okay.
So we're working on it.
Okay, thank you. All right, if there's no further business, is there a motion to adjourn this meeting? Trustee DeRozzi, second trustee Nell, all in favor? Okay, meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody, for a very long meeting that we did a lot of work on. So thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.
Have a good trip, Maura.
Nice.